Hello everyone, my name is Denise and today I'll be talking on the topic externalization versus internalization. When I talk about externalization, I'm referring to narrative therapy, one of the practices within narrative therapy. So what it is when a patient comes in and is diagnosed with depression or anxiety, externalization is awesome to help them reframe that so that it will not engulf their whole identity. I'm not a depressed person, I'm not an anxious person, I have moments in my day when anxiety is nearer to me or when depression is nearer to me, but that is not my identity. I don't let depression contaminate my identity. Okay, so what I do, what this practice actually entails is to imagine that the anxiety or depression is like an external entity, like a small little monster or doll that is near you at the start of the year, whispering things to you, making you feel a certain way, think a certain kind of thought, feel a certain kind of feeling. Okay, so let me just read out a few questions from this externalization exercise. What does anxiety do to you? When does anxiety usually visit you? Where would you be when anxiety visits? What does anxiety whisper to you? How do you know when anxiety is getting bigger? When do you first notice anxiety appearing in your life? What has happened since then? How has anxiety affected your relationship with your family? So you notice all these questions is a very clever attempt to externalize anxiety as an external entity. So that's good because it helps to narrow down the problem, right? Like, yes, now you are diagnosed with anxiety and depression, but it's not the end game. You're not what's that word? You're not now an anxious person, labeled anxious person. Because there are times when anxiety are nearer to you, but because of that, there are also times when anxiety is far away from you. Right? So if you know anxiety is very near you when you're very busy at work, when you're overwhelmed and your to-do list is too long, then you also know that when your to-do list is shorter, when you know how to delegate your work, when you have good friends or family support, anxiety is further from you. So you know what you can do to prevent anxiety from drawing so near. Or even when anxiety draws near, you know that in a time, maybe 1 hour, half a day, 1 day later, it will move away. So it's just a temporary problem. So it offers a lot of relief and also helps the normal person, not the general person, because most of us, we want to maintain a moral purity, to have a good impression of ourselves, right? So it removes that intrapsychic tension. There's nothing wrong with me per se, nothing contaminated about my being. It's just that anxiety is near me now, but it can go away. And with time, the frequency of it visiting me will also die down. That will offer quite a lot of relief. Okay, the disadvantage of externalization exercise is that it might exacerbate narcissistic traits. In short, exacerbate the thought that there is no darkness within me. Okay, narcissism is a condition where people think that they want to only focus on their beautiful front, all that's good about them, all that is pleasant and favorable and desirable and likable. They don't want to acknowledge that there is darkness, that their back and their shadow. They don't want to acknowledge the parts of them that is pain in the neck, that's causing people a lot of pain as well, or there's part of them that's selfish, that is cruel as well. So people with narcissistic traits tend to have that. So if externalization isn't done skillfully or phrased skillfully enough, it might exacerbate these narcissistic traits. Okay, next up, let's talk about internalization. Talking about internalization, it brings to mind Carl Jung's analytical psychology. So just let me describe it to you. So even within the purest person, there is a dark circle, the shadow. Okay, so as we try to get socialized in society, as human beings got socialized, like maybe Denise got socialized, she realized there are things that are unacceptable. For example, aggression might be unacceptable. Being overly sexual might be unacceptable. So all that sexual energy, that aggression gets trapped in the shadow and not properly expressed, and according to Carl Jung, is bad if you don't integrate the shadow within you, because it makes the shadow grow darker and denser, and it might rear its ugly head at a time where you don't want to, like when you least expect it, and then you'll be like shocked, like, oh, how can I be capable of such great darkness? So that's bad. It's important to know your own shadow side. Okay, like in the case of aggression, lately, because I'm doing the shadow work myself, lately we went to Spotlight and it was a very, very long queue, and it was not moving at all. So after a while, my husband, who was waiting outside, was worried, so he came in to find me. Then he asked me, what's happening? So I said in a very loud voice, "Hi, the queue is not moving. There's something wrong. There must be something wrong in front. Something is definitely not right." So, you know, people who know me, I'm like more or less, I'm like 98% in terms of the agreeable scale. I'm really very high in agreeableness. So this kind of assertive act doesn't typically come from me, but it just came out. And I felt empowered, and the people on the queue, they were like so happy, they were laughing. Because after that, immediately the manager just took over and then opened the other cashier, and then everything started to move. So that is like me doing the shadow work, right? I started to integrate this aggression, this useful energy, so that in the end, not only did I help myself, I helped everyone in the queue, and I wasn't being too rude as well. Fantastic. I really didn't know I had that side of me. So if I don't integrate this shadow, so to speak, I'll always remain a doormat. I will not be able to draw my boundaries and all that. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's talk about this book. The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Okay, so in there he shared a story about this Vietnamese veteran, this American man. When he was trained to be a soldier, then he went to Vietnam, and then he and his team was ambushed. He's got a really good friend, like his best friend of all time was in that platoon. So got ambushed by the Vietnamese. All of them died, but he was rescued. The next day, he was filled with so much rage and anger. He took his weapon and went to a nearby Vietnamese village and swept and killed a lot of people, including children, and he raped a woman there. So okay, he survived the war. He went home. After that, he got PTSD. He could not connect with his wife, could not connect with his children, and he was always frozen in that state. What he witnessed was an unlocking of this shadow side that he never knew existed. He cannot reconcile it. Like, is that me? Am I capable of such atrocities? The answer is yes. And you know what's more scary? The answer is yes to all of us. Given the right conditions, we might be able to be just like that Vietnamese veteran. So better get to know your shadow side well before it shocks you like that. Okay, next up. Okay, so yes, there are some people, right, when they're doing the shadow work, or rather they have been receiving the brunt of societal pressure, like maybe they've been bullied all their lives, or they find it hard to integrate into society. So they are, in fact, more aware than you and I of the shadow side, the collective shadow of society, how it discriminates against certain people. So the conclusion that a lot of them get to is, I'm going to have a mass murder-suicide. Okay, a very common fantasy that pops up would be, take a knife or a gun and kill everybody and kill myself. And by doing so, I'm helping the society because I'm ridding everybody of that shadow, that sickening shadow that I cannot stand. Okay, so for that, right, I have a remedy. I'm going to read from the Bible, Matthew 13:25, the wheat and darnel story. Okay. While everyone was asleep, his enemy came, sowed darnel among the wheat, and made off. When the new wheat sprouted and ripened, the darnel appeared as well. The owner's servant went to him and said, "Sir, was it not good seed that you sowed in your field? If so, where does the darnel come from?" "Some enemy has done this," he answered. And the servant said, "Do you want us to go and weed it out?" But he said, "No, because when you weed out the darnel, you might pull up the wheat with it. Let them both grow till the harvest, and at harvest time I shall say to the reapers, first collect the darnel and tie it in bundles to be burnt, then gather the wheat into my barn." Okay, so this is a very good passage because it also is pointing to all of us counselors and in the helping profession, even parents. They're so eager to weed out the shadow within our children. Once they start to express any form of jealousy, any form of anger, any form of socially unacceptable behavior, like it's the sexual phase. I think the phallic phase, our kids start to touch with their genitals and all that, we say, "Ooh, that is so socially unacceptable." So as we do that, it's actually bad, not so good, because it actually, sadly to say, encourages narcissism, Yep, and also leads to other problems. Okay, refer to Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, identity versus confusion, and the earlier phase, I think it's autonomy versus okay, I just can't remember it now, but don't judge me. Okay, I'll put the link to Erik Erikson's model below, then you all can read it. Okay, so essentially what it's saying is that don't be so eager to weed out everything that's bad, because something bad is brewing, but something good at the same time is growing. A patient might come to you super resentful, super angry, but something good is coming out as well. Something good is happening. Allow them to explore within the session, of course, with protected boundaries so that they don't hurt themselves or others. Okay, so this is the end of today's video. I've thought of a way to integrate narrative therapy together with analytical psychology, okay, which is this. So what does anxiety do to you? Instead of saying, what does anxiety do to you? You can say that when anxiety is near you, which part of your shadow is drawn out of you? Okay? So when you ask this kind of question, then people realize that there's a shadow that is inherent within me. Given the right conditions, it will be expressed. And that's okay, because we are all like that. We all have that seed of darkness within us. I think that's a great way to integrate narrative therapy with analytical psychology. Okay, thank you. That's all for today. And if you like this video, kindly press like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you and God bless.